howdy, hey. Welcome back to the Douglas Podcast, the one and only podcast where it's just one white guy talking to himself. How long will he talk to himself? Who knows? Today, doing something a little bit different than yesterday, hopefully a little bit longer and a little bit more off script, much more my opinions. We're testing things out. We're going to be talking about two things. First thing is we're going to be talking about the education system, because I've got some really great ideas that I think are very important. And then we're finishing it up with a little video game talk. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite Minecraft mods, SkyFactory. But before all that, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by the California education system, because I grew up in California. My family still lives in California. So I got lots of ties to California, and that's where most of my knowledge on the education system comes. So if you're from Texas and you're going to come to me being like, hey, I'm from Texas and that's not how things are, I don't care, because guess what? I'm from California and this is a California perspective. Alright, so the education system. We hate it. We hate it. Yeah, that's what there is to it. Look, back in the day, way back then, agricultural era, kids weren't really taught reading, writing, stuff like that. This was back in the time where parents had lots of children because of high infant mortality rates. You know, you need extra farm hands to do the manual labor around the house. And if like half your kids are dying in birth or before they're the age of 5, then you're going to want to have lots of them so that you have lots of backups. And there wasn't the time to teach these kids. There weren't the resources. All they really needed to know was how to work the farm as quick as they could. And then as we got into the more industrial era of things, we started realizing that, we can utilize these kids for more than just farm hands. Factory workers. There's lots of simple jobs that don't require the strength of an adult. Sometimes just like weaving fabric together, or just like hitting a button and stuff like that. And this is before all like the laws about child safety and how it's like a minimum age to work and you can't work at a factory if you're a kid. This was before all of this. But then it became important for kids to sort of have an education, because now you needed to teach them how to do stuff that wasn't just farming. So you needed to explain to them. And a lot of these heavy machineries, it's hard to remember hitting every single button or doing all that stuff. You needed like something written out. And while beforehand only like the rich elite knew how to read, it was becoming important for kids to know how to read as well. They could read the buttons on what to do. They could read instruction manuals. You could have like a little sheet on the side telling them exactly what to do, and they just read that and follow it. And so it became important for the kids to become educated. So we started developing a system for that called school. Kids would sit in a room, kids of all different ages, and one person, the teacher, would start teaching them stuff. How to read, how to write, how to spell their name, all this important stuff that would become important when they grew up and started working at the factories. And what they also learned is like, hey, this education thing is great. Kids are reading, kids are writing, and they realized that the more educated kids were easier to train at the jobs. And so the earlier they started being taught how to do things, the faster they could adapt to working at the factories and stuff. And so, schools became more than just here's how you read and write stuff. It became like, here's how we get you working on a schedule where you come to the same place each day and you do a repetitive task. And then when you hear this bell, that means you get a break time. And then once that break's over, you go back to working and you don't stop working. And make sure you took your bathroom breaks make sure you go to the bathroom during your break, because you won't get the chance to when you're working on the factory, because if you don't look, everything has to pause. And you can see where I'm going, to where schools became less of like everyone in a room learning how to read and more of like, here's how you adapt to working in the workforce. So school became a pipeline for kids to go to school directly to the factories. Bells dictating when you have breaks. You get like 1 or 2 breaks during the day, one short break, one longer break for your meal, using the restroom during those breaks, doing repetitive tasks over and over again, working on a schedule. All of these things were very important for kids going into the workforce because it taught them how to be in the workforce. And eventually, labor laws came out and kids could no longer work in the factories. The working age began to rise. There are more adults in factory jobs and kids were just kids. Jobs became more than just factory jobs, starting to get into white collar jobs now, business, stuff like that. But school never really changed. Even when I was going to school, same thing. When the bell rings, that means break time starts. When the bell rings, break time's over. And all that stuff still going on. Still preparing kids to work in a factory that they're no longer going to work in. And so you can see where I'm going with this, is how the school system's pretty outdated. You spend 12, 13 years just getting through to the end of high school. And then what? You're taught all these general knowledge stuff that you don't really need in the world. I know it's a meme that people kind of say, but like, you don't use the Pythagorean theorem in real life. You don't use the quadratic formula in real life. You won't need to recite one of Shakespeare's sonnets in real life. There's actual important things that should be being taught to you. And you could make the argument, I've certainly made the argument in the past, it's not about what you're learning specifically. It's about the steps that you're learning. It's about learning reading comprehension. It's about learning abstract thinking. And you know what? When I was in high school, I probably would have believed that. But now that I'm older and looking back, I don't believe that so much anymore. I think it's still meant to take us to the factory. And, I'm going to tell you what my ideal school system would be, is if I were to revive it in the future. But before we get to that, we're 8 minutes in, so it's time for our segment, 2 minutes of keyboard sounds. For those of you that are new, this podcast is made for the express purpose for my fiance to fall asleep to, because she has trouble falling asleep, and she really loves falling asleep to keyboard sounds. So here it is, 2 minutes, uninterrupted, of keyboard sounds. welcome back. Hope you enjoyed those 2 keyboard sounds, and if you're still awake and listening, welcome to my opinion piece, where I get on my soapbox and I say really important things that people definitely care about. Alright, look. First thing that's clear about the education system is that it's way outdated. Kids are forced to learn things that aren't necessary in a sort of pipeline that just keeps continuing. Look, elementary school, that's great. You're learning how to interact with people that aren't your parents. You're learning shapes, colors, writing, stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of basic stuff that you're taught in elementary school that's pretty important, and a lot of other stuff that you're not going to remember. Like, I was taught about, like, early human civilization. I don't remember much about that, but that's fine. You know, when you're in elementary school, you're still a kid. You still are enjoying your life. That is all fine. And when you get to middle school, you're getting into puberty. It's a rough time for everybody because now you're learning how to deal with other people also going through a bad time with feelings that you've never dealt with before. Feelings of romance, feelings of other stuff that you're discovering about yourself, and you're learning how to interact with other people in a setting that's not super monitored. You know, when you were in elementary school, your discussions were monitored by your teacher. When you're out at recess, your teachers are out there monitoring you. You also have like supervisors out there moderating you. And when you're in middle school, that kind of goes away a little bit. Kids are allowed to let loose a little bit more, for better or for worse. Let's be honest, middle schoolers are the worst. I was a middle schooler. Middle schoolers are the worst. They destroy things. They're very annoying. They will always be the worst because they are going through the worst time. And especially the worst time of their lives so far. So, I think for middle school, you need to take a step back. We need to relax a little bit. These kids are going through a tough time. Not that they'd listen to it, but maybe a class on how to interact with other people respectfully would be great. How to not steal from your local grocery store. Just, I don't know. There's where I grew up. There's a whole like accelerated program for like the gifted students, the quote unquote gifted students. We don't need any of that. Look, man, if you have an easier time in school than others, that's great. You can be self-sufficient. Let the teachers focus their attention to the kids who are struggling, the kids who maybe have special needs that need more attention, maybe the kids who just aren't clicking with whatever they're talking about, maybe need it re-explained. You know, not everybody learns the same. Some people are visual, some people learn by practicing, some people are like listening, they learn by listening. And if you're self-sufficient and you can teach yourself, great. Good on you. Let the teachers focus more of their attention to the kids who need help, instead of dividing it up to where now all of the smart kids are going to be in this class and they're going to learn all these smart things, and the teachers are going to teach them all these smart things and they get to do all these fun stuff. And the dumb kids, they're going to be in the dumb kid class, and the smart kid teachers are going to give stuff to the dumb kids, and the dumb kids do dumb kid things so they can focus all their attention on the smart kid stuff. And I'm saying this as a person who was in the accelerated classes. I'm not like, oh man, the teachers gave more attention to the other people's. No, I was in the smart kid classes. And I think that more attention needs to be given to the kids who are struggling, because they're the ones that need the attention. You don't need to be you don't need a college reading level in middle school. You don't need to be super gifted at math in middle school. As middle school, nobody cares. You know who does need help? The people who have a hard time focusing when there's other noise. The kids who need extra time on tests. This could be a time to address those issues and not completely solve those issues, because those are not issues that can be completely solved, but at least work on strategies to help cope with some of the things. And then my biggest grievance, high school. High school is sucky. because once you get into high school, that's when school starts to matter. That's what I was always told. When you get to high school, that's when your grades start to matter. You need to get straight A's so you can get into college. I think that's stupid. High school should be a time that you spend getting, I don't know, getting to know your interests. Getting to know what you want to do in your life. High school should be the time where you have mostly elective classes to where you can decide, hey, what do I want to do with my life in the future? And it's a hard question to put on kids who don't even know how to drive, what they want to do with their life. It's also a hard question to be like, hey, you're in your senior year of high school, and now you need to decide right now what you want to be when you grow up, because you're going to go to a college that you decide right now, and you've got to do that degree you decide right now. And it shouldn't be like that. There are some things that are important to learn in high school. I'm not against PE, physical fitness classes. I'm not against the basic learning classes like biology, chemistry. There are important classes. I'm just saying we need more of an opportunity. When I was in high school, there was in every classroom, this is how many classes of each subject you need to take to graduate, and this is how many colleges want to see. And what ended up happening is you get either you work a 7-class course load, one extra class than you get to school at 7 in the morning, or you just get one elective each semester. Some of them were year-long electives, so you get one for the entire school year. And it's not really fair to be okay, say you're in senior year for 4 years. By the start of your senior year, you are deciding what college you want to go to. So you have 3 chances to find something you like. And I'll get into some of the issues about that later, but I think there needs to be more options for kids in high school. Maybe you would have 1, maybe 2 classes of this is the stuff you need to know, this is the stuff we're teaching you, and the rest of them, pick what you want to learn. If you think that you'd like math, go into these math classes. If you think you'd like to do writing, go into these writing classes. If you think you'd like engineering classes. You don't need to teach every kid in high school the quadratic formula and all of this stuff that they're not going to need later. You can still teach it though. Kids that enjoy math, that want to do math, hey, I enjoyed math. I took the accelerated math classes and I loved it. I would choose those math classes. I'd choose the computer science classes. Wouldn't choose the English classes, didn't care much for those, but I had some people that were the exact opposite. They loved writing essays, they loved reading books. Go into those classes, enjoy those classes. There needs to be more options. And my second biggest grievance is college credit in high school. Getting college credit in high school. Because when I was in high school, I was always taught, take these AP classes, take these IB classes, because when you get to college, you won't have to take those classes. I think that that's terrible and dumb, and I don't think we should do that. Because what ends up happening is, for me, for lots of other people, instead of taking those elective classes, the 1 or 2 you get a semester, to explore something you're like, oh, let me take AP art history, let me take AP physics, let me take all these AP classes so that when I get to college, I can spend less time in college and I don't have to take these classes in college. I think that's dumb, because instead of enjoying your high school experience and trying to figure out what you want, you're just like, I need to get all this done so I can get to college. I need to get through college as quick as I can so I can get into the workforce. I need to I need to get through all these classes. I think maybe in your senior year, once you've decided like what you kind of want to do, then you should have the option to do those AP classes. But I had friends who in sophomore year would like just fill their electives with AP courses as soon as they could, and they were stressed out all the time because the AP courses are for college credit because they're college level classes. They require an intense amount of devotion and studying and tests like every week to succeed in them. And then at the end of the year, you take a big test, the AP test, to determine if you even get credit for those classes. And the issue is you're not exploring what you want to know. You don't get the chance to in college anymore because you've skipped the first 2 years of college where you get to do that. Instead, you've just pushed yourself ahead and now you don't know what to do. And I'm taking up a lot of time on this soapbox. There's still more I could talk about, but I will talk about that later. But I will summarize my thoughts as this. School needs to be an opportunity for kids to learn what they want to do in the future. Not forcing them to decide, but having the chance to explore whatever they want to do, and if they like something, going further in that. And to that point, I think grades shouldn't really matter because after high school, you should go to community college to get your general education, to do the basic classes for whatever you need to learn. And you should take that time in community college to also solidify what you want to do with your life. And from then, you can go to whatever specialization you want to do, even if you want to do like trade school. That should be more accepted. Now, I'll get off my soapbox because I'm very passionate about this subject, as you can tell. But I will be taking a 2-minute break so you can hear me say the name Bella over and over again. And when we come back, I'll be talking about another thing I'm passionate about, which is Minecraft. So I will see you in 2 minutes. Bella. 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 Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed me talking about the school system. But now we're going to pivot the conversation a little bit to something I quite enjoy, which is the game of Minecraft. Minecraft is a very fun game. It is a very versatile game. And you know what? Basic Minecraft, kind of boring. Not as much fun. But you know what I do like? Is a mod pack called SkyFactory. Let me tell you the history. way, way, way back, however long ago, there was a Minecraft map called Skyblock, where the whole world was gone. You were just on this little plot of land and given a few resources, and it was up to you to build and expand. And this was great. And there was a second island you get to with even more stuff. And this was great, but there's only so much you can do. You can only get to a certain point. You couldn't get to the nether. There wasn't enough resources for that. Not every resource is infinitely renewable so that you can get a bunch of it. Some resources are finite in the base game. Until this mod pack came out called SkyFactory, SkyFactory came out. And what it was is there was a singular block and a tree on the block. And that was all you had. But because of mods and stuff, sapling, you replant the sapling, you get wood, you build out your platform. You can build like sieves, the leaves, compost them, it becomes dirt. The dirt you sieve, it becomes sand and gravel. And then from those, you start getting minerals that you can find in it. And it starts becoming, every resource is now a renewable resource. And you just go through all these steps and you collect these resources and you keep going. But it's more than just that. There's a ton of other mods. There's 4 versions out currently, I believe, unless a 5th one's come out. I'm waiting. But as far as I know, there's 4 versions, each one sort of building on the other. But it's all that base idea of starting on a tree with a dirt block, and you just expand from there. And what I'm going to talk about is the one that I played specifically, because I got into all this watching Minecraft YouTubers before I had a computer that I could install mods on, before I really could play a lot of Minecraft. So I'd watch them do it, but then finally, SkyFactory 4, I was able to play myself, and it was great. One of my favorite things is automation. I love automating things. You can look into that however you want, how I don't like to play the game, I just like to sit and let the game play for me. I don't know, but I loved automating things, and SkyFactory has a lot of automation. In the recent version, number 4, the trees, like they had like mineral trees, and the trees, if you broke the leaves, like you start on a dirt tree and you break the leaves and like dirt pieces fall out of the tree, and then you can make dirt with that, and then you use that to make like sand trees and gravel trees, and basically a tree for every resource. And they had these things that could automatically grow and chop the trees, and so I just had like this whole field of like automated growing and chopping trees, and it was great. You get a ton of resources, and it was awesome. They also had, this is where I'll get into my grievance, they had an optional prestige feature, which I was like, this is great. But basically what would happen is there was this block, and you had to give it like a ton of power, like a lot of, like, you had to get pretty far in to get that much power to pump into it. Then you place the block, and then it need power for like 10 minutes, a lot of power. And then it'd reset the world 10 minutes, and then you'd get 1 point that you could spend on like abilities and stuff. And this was great, except what would happen is that the world that you were in would be reset to 10 minutes before, but your inventory wouldn't. So if you have like, basically you had like a battery, you had a battery that could store like all the power that you needed to power that machine. You placed it down, you started the machine up, you'd pick it up in your inventory, then you'd have it, the machine would reset, and now you have 2 of it. So it became very easy to duplicate things over and over and over again. And this was an optional thing. I could have easily not done it, and going back, I would have not done it, because that made the game less fun, because instead of trying to build stuff, it was more of like, what can I do to reset everything in 10 minutes so I can have double my resources? I can have double of everything. And then instead of it being automated, where it's like, oh, you've set up all this stuff, and now there's just a constant flow of stuff. It's just like, nope, double it every time. Take it, double it, take it, double it. And I wasn't really a fan of that. But besides that, I thought SkyFactory was very fun. And as I'm saying this now, I really want to go and start playing it again, because I have these sort of cycles where I'll like play a game for like a week, and then I'll get busy with other stuff and I'll forget about it, and then I'll move on to the next thing when it fancies my attention. And that'll happen over and over and over again. And same thing with Minecraft and Minecraft mod packs. It'll happen over and over and over again. But SkyFactory is one of those mods that you can always come back to, and it's different every time. The base is still the same, but after you get through a certain point, it's like, well, here's all the kind of crazy stuff I can do. Here's all this neat fancy stuff that I can make. Oh, I can do it this way. I can do it that way. And I don't know. It's pretty fun. I don't know if I have much more to say on that, but it's a fun game. It's a fun system. I quite enjoy it. And that's what I spent today talking about. Something I enjoy. But I think with that, I'm going to come to a close on this episode of the podcast. I'd like to thank all of you for staying and watching me. I'd like to thank all of you for falling asleep to listening to this. And if you haven't fallen asleep yet, I'm sorry. Keep listening to my other ones, or start it again from the beginning. But thank you all for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and hit subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for stuff you want to hear me talk about, go ahead and leave them in the comment. And with that, I wish you all a farewell. Thank you guys.